Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode. And today, epic episode, I have to say, because my guest today is Maria Franzoni. Maria, hello. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. You have set the bar high now by saying it's going to be epic. And I feel people are going to be disappointed. So I don't know. We might have to edit that. Actually, don't. Leave it in there. Let's make it epic.
Yeah, no editing whatsoever. I've been following you for several years, and you're transforming people, really, aren't you? Just tell us a little bit about your journey, Maria.
My journey, oh, goodness gracious. So I started in the world of speaking because I had several careers before that. I'm not a young person, but I started in the business of speaking in 1998. I'd never even heard of speaker bureaus, didn't know what they were. And I applied because the advert was quite cryptic and it appealed to me. And it said, can you negotiate at high level? And I had been a management consultant beforehand, sitting in front of very senior people. And I thought, yeah, I can handle that. Not realizing that very soon I'd been negotiating with former presidents and people like Neil Armstrong and clients on the other side, of course. So I started at CSA Celebrity Speakers. I got poached by London Speaker Bureau. And then I started my own bureau, and that was in 2007. I like to do these things in economic crises,
and a challenging time, and go for it.
But I kept my relationship with London Speaker Bureau. So I had a very interesting relationship. I had my own business, but I had a partnership as well, where I was continuing to be, I was called an elder, so I was able to advise and support and train and be part of their growth, which was wonderful. And then on the latest economic, let's call it with economic downturn, the latest pandemic, I did it again. I started a new business and I changed from my bureau and started working with speakers. I started Speaking Business Academy, working with speakers, teaching them what speaker bureaus know.
Yeah. And I think there's some real nuggets, isn't it? There's some real secret that are kept in when it feels like they are very bijou and can anybody? I mean, that's the thing. I always feel when we talk about speaker bureau, it's almost impossible for a new emerging speakers to join a speaker bureau, because do they only kind of pick the big 10,000K plus speakers, or do you think that they do look for emerging speakers in some ways?
So the thing is, every bureau is different, and this is the problem. You can't generalize. There are bureaus who will only look at speakers over certain price brackets or in certain topic areas, or who will it's really who will serve their clients. So if you're a 5K speaker and you go to a 10K bureau, you're going to get rejected. And the big thing is to do the research. But before that is to say, well, do I really need a bureau as part of my speaking business strategy? Do you need a bureau? Because yes, it is difficult to get onto their rosters. And even when you are on the roster, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get booked. So sorry to interrupt you, but just let me give you an example. In 2019, which was a peak year before the pandemic, Speaker Bureau, one of the biggest global bureaus in the world. And I asked that Pareto question, which of the 20% of the speakers that got 80% of the business on the roster? It wasn't 20%, it was 1%.
Well, it was exactly what I was going to ask you, because I heard you talk about that figures before. And this is quite unbelievable, really, isn't it, when you think about it?
Do you know it's not? Because I then actually went and asked several of my former competitors and said, could you just do the same numbers? And they had the same numbers.
Wow. Interesting.
There's a lot behind that, because obviously, statistics without all the context and information. There are a lot of speakers that are only booked once a year. There are a lot of those speakers, and those might be really huge names who will only do one or two or handful of events a year around the world. So those are going to form part of that, that sort of 99%, right? And they skew the results a bit. And then there's those that are there's the bureau trusts that they know. But your question was, well, do they only take, established speakers? Bureaus are always looking to add new speakers to their roster, but those speakers have to fill a gap for them, and they have to be of a certain standard. They have to be what I like to say is speaker bureau ready.
Okay. So what does that mean? You've said the word. Let's get into that. That is, what is it? Because really, when you think, oh yes, I'm going to be a speaker. And then, when you start, I mean, I've written journeys. I always talk about customer experience and mapping out your journeys. And as a speaker, I've mapped out all my journeys, every part of the journey, I've mapped it out. And when you think about it, it's massive when you're doing it properly. So what does that mean to be speaker bureau ready?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on actually having a customer journey, because so few speakers think about that and do that. And the ones that I worked with in my bureau who had a customer journey and actually treated me as the customer and took me on that journey, I still remember them to this day. And I remember the experiences and the feelings that I had. And I still talk about them and what it was like to work with them. So well done. Sorry, slight tangent. So what does it mean to be speaker bureau ready? To be speaker bureau ready, you have to be easy to book for that speaker. So ideally, you really need to have already got momentum and be bookable. If you go to a bureau too soon, where your fees are a little low, you probably get rejected, because bureaus work on commission. Right. So they want you to already have got yourself to a certain level. Yes, they can help you get higher, but you already need to be at a level where it's worth them getting out of bed to make the sale. Yeah. So you need to have a decent level already. You need to already be successful, because they need testimonials. They need to see who you've worked for. And those testimonials need to be from people who are similar to their clients or their clients. They need to be those peers, not from other speakers. That's not going to help you, right?
Right. Good
they
point.
need very important. Very important. You'll have to interrupt me, because I get passionate about this. Because of course, yeah, do interrupt me whenever you need to. You definitely need video footage unless you are really known, because bureaus haven't got time to come and see everybody in person. So they're going to want a show reel, and they're going to want a full video, recent speech video that was done in front of an audience. They want to know what you talk about. They want a well-written bio. And they want you to be relevant to what's going on in the market, what's going on for their clients. I mean, I could go on, but I mean, that's a good starting point.
And as you're mentioning, relevant to the markets, I mean, what is relevant at the moment, Maria? What are the topics that you're seeing that there's a buzz around it?
Well, seeing as we're focusing on bureaus, it's probably let's focus on what's relevant for the bureaus. Most bureaus will specialize in certain topics.
Oh, really? That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They will specialize in certain areas, and each agent within those topics will have specialist areas too that they like.
Interesting.
Yeah. Again, it's that 80-20 rule that they will do, 80% of their income will come from their specialist topics, and then they'll have the outside. So for example, London Speaker Bureau is a great example. London Speaker Bureau is interested in international speakers. They have a global reach. They want international relevant topics. They are very strong on political, economic, future, those kinds of areas. Entertainment is not their thing.
Okay.
Dinner speakers, entertainers, you wouldn't go to London Speaker Bureau.
Okay.
And then there'll be other bureaus where you would go to them.
Yeah.
And there'll be bureaus who'll be specialists with British speakers. But if you want a specialist international view, probably London Speaker Bureau is still probably the top one. If you're wanting the top former heads of state and you're wanting those really big names, you're going to go to Washington Speakers Bureau. So each of these bureaus have specialists, even though you can't tell necessarily from their rosters on their website.
Right.
You can certainly tell from their newsletters. You can tell from their blogs. You can tell from what they're promoting.
Okay, so you're giving some nuggets there as I'm picking them as I go along, because really, if you are a speaker and you want to get onto those bureaus, you need to do your market research. And market research is going on their website, starting to look around who perhaps speaking around your own topic, how they present it, and actually get onto their newsletter. That's a really good point, because that tells a lot. I mean, I love your newsletter, Maria. It's so full of insight. So if you're not on Maria's newsletter, I will put the link actually underneath, because you need to be on her newsletter. There's just fabulous tips on a weekly basis. There's always something there. So that's a really important part of it. I think we underestimate the value of market researching, right?
You have to treat a bureau like you would a client. You would never approach a client without researching, what business are they in? What's their situation currently? What are they struggling with? What are their interests? What are their ambitions? What's the structure of the organization? And yet people approach bureaus and they do it sort of the big mistake is they'll approach lots of bureaus in exactly the same way. And
Right.
bureaus hate that. Most bureaus will have a process, and it's usually on their website to say, if you want to apply to be a speaker, this is our criteria, this is what we need, and this is how you do it. And for example, if you go to Big Speak, they'll tell you, unless you're earning $20,000 per speech, don't apply.
Don't bother. Right. It's fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, it kind of it gives you a level, right? Yeah, not to waste any time of their time and your time if you're not at that level. So, Maria, so now you're doing that and you're helping also speakers. So how do you do you have a stories, for example, that you've taken at one of your clients from being an emerging speakers and perhaps to move that significance increase in their speaking level so they can get booked and they can really kind of see that difference between the fees between how they started and yeah, maybe 10K plus or plus.
I've got lots of them, but I haven't cleared it if I can share their names.
Fair
so
enough.
I haven't done that, but I've got lots of them. And many who've gone. So I've had many speakers who've gone from being successful in their local areas and wanted to go international and get an international reputation and get represented internationally. I had one speaker who wanted his ambition. He had been a very successful speaker in his region, really successful, making a lot of money, but his ambition was to speak at Harvard. So we managed to make that happen, which was fantastic. So whenever I work with a speaker, I want to know from them, what does success look like and what is it that we're aiming for? Because otherwise you don't know what you need to do and what the steps are. And most speakers are looking to raise their fees, absolutely. And speakers should be raising their fees on a regular basis. You should never get stuck in one price bracket. But I find that many do get stuck in one space and don't move forward. And there's several steps to increase your fee. And the biggest thing to get the fee that you want, really, I'm probably answering 25 questions in one here, Claire, so I'm sorry.
It's fabulous. Go.
Switched me on and I've gone. So the biggest thing is to really articulate the problems that client is facing. The more you can articulate and understand their problems in their language, right, the easier it is for them to buy into you as the solution, as the speaker, because it's people want to feel understood, and yet most speakers spend most of their time talking about them and what they've done, as opposed to talking about the people that they are trying to get booked by and the situation they're in.
Yeah, it's a very subtle but very important way, right? What's in it for the clients? What's in it for me as a client? Do you think what would you say sets apart those really kind of high-end level speakers to the rising stars? What are the real nuggets, or what's those really important skills that you need to set you apart?
I suppose there's lots, really, but one is that ability to deliver a really strong message and to to make it easy for the audience to follow you and be with you and stay with you throughout, so that you've got a memorable message. Because you can go to a conference and you might see 20 speakers, breakout rooms and all these different things, and there'll be one that you'll come away with and you'll think, that's the one that resonates and I'll do something. You want to be that speaker. You want to be that speaker that everyone's talking about after the conference. Even if you're not the headliner, you want to be that speaker. So they have that ability, but they have four characteristics, really. One is that they are relevant to the client, to what they need, to the market. The second, and their content is relevant. The second thing is that they are known by the right people who need to book them. So they have visibility, they're visible, they're on LinkedIn, or they're represented by people who are pushing them forward. The next thing is that they're easy to work with, they're easy to book, they're easy to work with, they're easy to listen to. So what have I got? So I've got, what's the other one? Relevant, easy to work with, known. I've left one behind. If I had a memory, that's
Oh,
a good one. That's clever. That's clever. That, you see, that's my area of my problem at the moment. My memory. They need to be memorable. So if you imagine that 1% of speakers that's booked all the
yeah.
time, that booked 80% of the time, it's because they are so memorable to those agents and those consultants in the bureau.
Mm.
So
Mm.
those are the four things: being relevant, easy to work with, easy to listen to, easy to book, being memorable, and being known. In other words, being visible.
Yeah. Do you think, Maria, there's a difference as well between countries? I mean, you've worked with in global industry, in the global industry, and is there real difference between, let's say, what they're looking in the States, what in Australia we were talking about in the previous episode with Leanne, and you work on that global kind of market. Is there massive difference? Do speakers need to adapt themselves to the market as well?
Yes, absolutely. I'm not
Okay.
going to touch Australia because that was the one continent that I left alone because of the time difference, let's be honest. And also Leanne was there, so there was no point, right?
Yeah,
Leave
yeah,
it to
yeah.
Leanne.
And go back to the video last week, and then you
Yeah,
can watch Leanne, and she's giving you loads of tips on Australia.
Australia. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I did very little in Australia, but it's interesting. So yeah, yes, every continent, every market is different. And if you are wanting to speak as an international speaker, you've got to position yourself as an international speaker.
Mm.
The market, the rates are different in the various markets. And so you've got, and things are valued differently in the markets, and everybody does business differently. So it's difficult to give you a general answer. But if you position yourself as an international speaker so that your language, your English, is international. You don't speak as fast as me. I speak way too fast. Your sentence structures are nicely constructed, so it's easy. Your examples are international and not local. All of those things, and you're respecting international cultures, you're respecting their cultures. But you'll find the big differences are, I mean, the US market is the market that's always ahead of everybody else.
Okay, interesting.
And it's always a very well paid market, but that means it's also highly competitive. And the market that's incredibly hot at the moment, and of course this is only valid at the moment if things change, but I suspect it'll be for a while longer. The Middle East market is really buzzing, and I think you also had somebody from the Middle East recently on your
Yes, so
podcast.
Sahana was there, and obviously I'm based in Dubai as well, so
Yeah,
hence the
so it's a
reason
good
why
place to
I'm
be.
based in Dubai.
You know what? It's a good place to be in Dubai.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
well done, well done. So you've
yeah.
got your customer journey, and you're in the right place. Claire, you're doing great.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I could see it. Yeah, no, it's been really interesting, and I think um, you need to that cultural change is very important. Really understanding how people. I did a gig in Kuala Lumpur and Jakarta, and some of the pictures that I used in my slides were not funny enough. There was a dog, or there was feet, because I was talking about steps and things like that. And those are really kind of tiny little things that you don't think about, and actually, wow, how powerful it is to make that really those simple changes to actually really kind of make sure that you don't show feet when you're in different, depending on the
Absolutely. And
countries.
dogs as well. Yeah, absolutely.
And
It's
dogs.
good. Yeah, you can, of course, if you're inexperienced, the client is always happy to look over your slides. In fact, many of them are very keen to be a bit control freakish. So you could always say, could you check my slides and let me know if anything is not culturally correct? And be careful with colloquialisms and slang and jargon that we tend to use,
Right.
because that's also a problem.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you're right as well. Some of the word that we use on the regular basis, which really doesn't mean anything in the same, I've done, well, I'm French originally. So, sometimes, listening or translating a French to an English or an English to a French is totally, totally different. And when you're doing it word by word, it just doesn't mean anything really. So being able to have somebody who can relook at, how your content is delivered from a translation part of it, it's really important as well. So if it feels right, it feels right.
Let me say, Claire, the fact that your first language is not English, I'm the same, my first language is not English, it means that we are actually more sensitive to people who don't speak English as their first language. And our vocabulary, if you listen to me and read me as well, my vocabulary is fairly simple. My husband's language, his vocabulary is enormous, and he's often using these huge words, and I understand them because, speaking Italian, often they're based in Latin and whatever. And I just laugh at him because I think if I used that internationally, that language, it wouldn't work, but it works where he is because they're all very intelligent people and very well read. So that he needs to speak in that way to fit in. But when he brings it home, I just laugh at him.
Yeah, or maybe a bit overusing of ChatGPT, and then suddenly my French English goes into a total very posh, extremely using unwavering and confidence words that I would never ever use.
Brilliant.
So that's one to be careful as well. What do you think? So do you think the market has changed over the years, especially the last kind of few years with the pandemic and everything that happened, the industry, the bureaus, the expectations? How do you think things have changed?
Things have changed a lot in the last few years, but even more so since I started. I started 25 years ago. The change is phenomenal. When I started 25 years ago, we had more clients than speakers, and we were often having to go and look for speakers, do a lot of research to add them to the roster. Now there are many more speakers than there are events, but a lot of those speakers aren't making money because there's no barrier to entry to say I'm a speaker. There's no barrier to entry, but the barrier is making money. Because you need to think about the business side and not just the speaking side. You can be the world's best speaker, but you could also be the world's best kept secret because no one knows about you. What's changed in the last few years is that the opening up of virtual, which has been fantastic and horrible in the same breath, really. At the time, we've all got a bit tired of virtual, but it has its place and it's kept its place. It allows clients to get their people together more often, and it allows them to have speakers, more speakers than they maybe would have done, because they don't have to worry about paying for travel, venues, etc. And it's less time out for those people because they can go straight back to work immediately after the event has changed. So that's been a fantastic addition. So what's happened since the pandemic was horrific. We all know that for the speaking world, but we've gone back to the levels pre-pandemic for in-person. People are so keen to be in person again.
They are.
And on top, we've got the virtual. So the market has expanded, it's grown. But we've also lost a lot of speakers who retired their businesses because of the fact that, thought they're going through the pandemic, they were probably going to retire anyway. And we've had a load new people come on. So, yeah. So it's interesting. Interesting.
It is interesting, that kind of hybrid as well, because I did a CX conference a couple of weeks ago in Ghana, and when they got in touch with me, I was like, oh yes, Ghana, here I come. And then he says, no, we'll bring you virtually. I was like, oh right, exciting. But they promised me next year I'll be going to Ghana, so that's fine.
Fantastic.
It opens up this opportunity for countries perhaps like, Ghana, which may not necessarily have, the budget and the to bring kind of expert and high level speakers, to bring them inside their conferences and still make a really good impact with that hybrid situation. And although I was virtual with them, I had some really good kind of feedback and messages on LinkedIn, and the energy that you bring. And I think we can still do those kind of things and add on something to perhaps countries where it's a little bit more difficult to get to.
Yeah, no, fantastic. That's a huge benefit. And the other benefit is that having gone more virtual, people are more open to speaking when perhaps they wouldn't have done in the past. So you can reach people of a very senior level, high level, who in the past bureaus would say, no, that person doesn't speak. And yet they're actually open to it because it doesn't impact them so much in terms of participating.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many opportunities, so many more opportunities.
Well, Maria, just so tell me, if anybody wants to work with you, what's the deal?
What's the deal?
What's the deal, girl? Come on.
What's the customer journey, right? That's what you want to know, Claire. The customer journey. So I work specifically with certain types of speakers. So the speakers I work with are those who want to speak at business meetings and events. So I don't work with speakers who sell from stage or those who want to do personal development speaking. So it's specifically those. And I don't work with speakers who want to work in schools. There are people who are better at those other things, way better than me. So I work with those that the area that I know. And so people wanted to work in corporates, big business, government, internationally. Those are the speakers. And I'm happy to work with people starting out and those who've got stuck and want to increase their turnover or change their business model. I'm very commercially focused. The business bit is the bit that really excites me. And I have a partner who is focused on the content and the delivery. Mary Tilson works with me on that side. So we're like speaking business. I do the business, she does the speaking bit. And the journey is quite straightforward. We have a consultation, and because you can't prescribe without a consultation, right? It would be malpractice. I've taken that from Jamil Qureshi, who says that he always takes a briefing call because otherwise he can't prescribe what he's going to talk about. So I have a consultation, try to understand, where the speakers are at in their business, what their aspirations are, and to say, can I help you get to where you want to be based on where you are now and what your aspiration is? And I'll say, if I can, I'll then say, this is what I can do for you. And I like to work one-to-one with people because I can then go at their speed, although I make them go fast.
Well, you've told me the first thing now. You said you're a bossy boot, aren't you?
I'm a bossy boots. Yes. I'm not a coach. I'm not going to say, what do you think? I'm going to say, this is what's worked for this person, that person, this person, that person. This has worked for me. So I'm going to give them real case studies and examples and give them, accelerate, because I don't believe it takes a year to get started. You can do it much faster.
And it's the action, isn't it? I mean, let's come on, let's do it. If you don't take action, you need that yang energy coming through. Okay, fantastic. So I will put the details underneath so you can click and go and check out Maria's website. Just to finish off, three top tips for you. What would you suggest that we'd do when we're a keynote speaker, we want to move that needle to the next level? What would be your three kind of top tips?
One is grab this book because it'll help you to really improve your content and your speeches. And I should be on commission. It's called The Referable Speaker, and it's by Andrew Davis and Michael Port. And it's absolutely fantastic. If you're the one that wants to be that visionary thought leader, keynote, that high paid speaker and really go to the top, it takes you on that journey. I wish I'd written it. I don't think I could. It's brilliant. That would be my first tip. And the second tip is grow your business yourself before you start looking for representation. Really build it yourself and understand it, because that journey is a really, as you say, your customer journey. It helps you to build that customer journey. It helps you to understand. And it's only when you're really ready that you should go to bureaus. And the third tip is, I suppose, be totally clear on what success looks like for you in your speaking business. So many people are very vague about what it is or haven't thought it through. There'll be some that will say, I want to speak 100 times a year, not realizing actually that 100 times a year, 80% of your time is spent getting the business. So all the work you're going to have to do around it, you're going to have to think about how that works. So really think about, what does success look like? What does it really mean? How does speaking fit into my life and the rest of my business?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Fabulous, Maria. This is just fantastic. I'm so pleased we managed to chat up to each other. And if you like the video, subscribe, go and check out the previous videos, because there was loads of those speakers and all the bureaus as well. So post comments, ask questions. I'm sure Maria will be very happily answering any of your questions as well if you post any questions. And I shall see you around, Maria, at some point. I'm sure we'll bump each other in one of the events or something somewhere around the world.
I hope so. Yes. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. And bye, everybody.